Hey, welcome back to the weekly recap of It's a Football Thing. I'm your co-host, RJ the Balanced Blue, joined by my fellow co-host, Scott the Gooner, Rob the Red Devil. Robbie, how you doing, my man? I'll go to you first.
Good, mate. As I said last week, the football fatigue is continuously kicking in. We're falling over the line. We're just there. 1 week to go in the Premier League. We've all discussed it before, mate. It's just we can really feel that the end is coming. You can see the bags on their eyes. You can tell we've aged another 20 years from watching football this year, but it's all worth it. How you guys?
I love it. Yeah, good, mate. Good. And obviously, we'll talk about all the huge results and ramifications. But, Scott, appropriate colour to wear, mate, signalling the official end of Arsenal season. But you turned up, mate. More than what I could say for your team this year.
Mate, look, you boys know me. I always turn up. That's one thing no one can say I don't turn up. And you know what's funny, RJ? When I put this jersey on, actually in my head thought, I'll wear black because I'm mourning the season that could have been. So you took the words right out of my mouth, mate. It's been a good season, but this last part of the season's it's really hurt. It's hurt. But I'm sure we'll come to that shortly. And you, mister, how are you going?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. I'm wearing the colours to celebrate my mighty Manchester City, of course. Great crown champions, depends on the day. It depends who I go for, of course. But in all seriousness, I'm going not too bad. Work's busy. Family's keeping me on my toes. Football's just one of those things that keeps trickling along in the background. On a positive personal level, my son got a good win on the weekend, and Robbie got to see that. So happy to take some plaudits because it's been a tough season for the young fellas, but happy to coach a 5-0
More wins than Frank.
More wins than Frank at the moment, and frankly, I'm pretty tired talking about it. But you know what? Let's talk about headlines. City crown champions again. Arsenal, of course, they have bottled the December Premier League crown. But top four, is it now done? 99% yes, 1% no. But the real battle is on the other side of the table, fellas, because there's three teams still battling out to get themselves out of that perilous drop. So there's been a lot of huge results, boys. So let's not muck around and get straight into it.
Well, look, let's start with the champions, boys. And speaking of champions, a big good evening to Justin in the chat and Tom from the United Pubcast. Make sure you show them some love. I can't remember who Tom predicted would get relegated. You'll have to tell us, Tom. If you had a good call, let us know about it. But the champions, Manchester City, lifted the Premier League Cup from the comfort of their couch because we lost to Nottingham Forest. We'll talk about that soon. But a big congratulations to City. This team, they're not a massive club in terms of worldwide reputation, brand, history, and that was evident from I say scenes loosely that we saw in Manchester. But in terms of their players, their manager, their trajectory, the legacy that they're starting to implant on modern football, can't argue that they're not massive there. Do you think, was it ever in doubt, Robbie? Did you always in the back of your head think City would run us down?
No. If you go back and watch most of our shows, I honestly did think you guys were going to get there. Like I said, even if it was, I thought they were going to wheel you in. I said both times I thought they were going to do the double when you guys played each other, the 6-pointer. I just, as we've gone over, I didn't expect you guys to lose like this week against your Forest, or you drop points against your Liverpool, West Ham in that, that last month where you kind of fell off. I didn't expect that. And with the buffer you had, I honestly thought, like I said, out of all the competitions, I really thought, hey, you guys are going to grab hold of this. You had those crazy, last-minute winners happening for you. You had everything going for you. You in form. It's just, for me, I just think it was a massive chance blown on Arsenal's behalf because we've seen it can happen. And like I said, but you just don't know what next season is going to hold. No one thought this of Arsenal this year. Next year could be, I'm not going to think, but you guys could be Europa spot again next year. And who knows? We could have another team. We could be better. You could be champions next year. You could have a team like Brighton break into the top 4 next year. You just don't know. Every team's different. I'm still amazed on Newcastle and Brighton this year, to be honest. Might touch on that later. But look, as far as City, mate, what is it? 5 in the last 6. That's crazy. I keep looking at that tally now. And I know we've got our 13 Premier Leagues, but man, they're really creeping up. And like, I keep thinking by the next, the next World Cup 2030, man, like if no one stops them, like how they were with us, they could be really catching up to us. And at one point it was just like no one's ever going to get there. But the trajectory at the moment and the way they're going, and the players they have, I feel like until Pep goes or something catastrophizes there, like they're just going to keep going and improving because in the end, where they look like they were having a bit of a hiccup of a season and they gave a bit of a buffer and everyone's like, okay, they're just going to forget the league and go for the Champions League. They're on for the treble, that they're breaking records left, right, and center. And they're just, 2-3 games now because of it today and they won it again. So I don't know. Someone's going to step up and I don't know who it is yet.
RJ, it's time for you to step up. Robbie spoke there a lot about City, what makes them great, but I want you to really try and narrow it down. What is it about this Manchester City team that has fans like Robbie, myself, and I'm sure you as well, a little bit terrified for what's going to be happening in the next few years? What is it that makes City such a juggernaut?
I'd say just the organisation itself. So, like comparing it to, say, other sporting codes, you look at, say, rugby league, you look at institutions like your Melbourne Storms, who over the last 20 or so years have really built themselves from the ground up. And that's what I think Manchester City's done, despite obviously the financial injection. Obviously, teams like mine and a couple of others that have got backing behind them doesn't always ensure success. But what Manchester City's done is they've really approached all the different foundations of what makes a club sustainable, and they've continued to back Pep. They've continued to have a recruitment strategy that makes sense for both the philosophy of the club as well as the manager to implement the philosophy. So I think, in summary, what makes them a dangerous proposition is the fact that they're just so well embedded. They've got a continuity about them, and they're not a team that with a short-term mindset. They've always got, like, for example, Gundogan, we've spoke about offline how potentially Arsenal are chasing him and why wouldn't they, because he's a class player. But even though he's someone that could play the next 2 or 3 years at the top flight, and I can see we've got a special guest on the IFT couch, that's always good to have. But the thing about Manchester City is that not only could they continue to rely on someone like Gundogan, they're forward planning. They're looking for the next guy to come in, not waiting until he's at the very tail end of his career and then chasing all of a sudden. They forward plan very effectively. They're just a well-oiled machine. And yes, there's a lot of question marks about, are they breaching financial fair play and they're being charged, and what's the gravity of all of that? But putting that to the side, their on-field performances are something that, as a neutral footballing fan, we all just have to sit back and admire.
You know what, though, and I want to bring up this comment because we saw your team, Arj, and I'm not taking the piss, but we saw Chelsea go and outlay like stupid amounts of money in January, and I would argue get worse. This comment here, what makes Man City so great, and everyone knows I love Ducky, he's a good man, but he's saying, I'm going with money spent and the money they can continue to spend. I'm looking at a table in another tab of Premier League teams' net spend over the last 5 years, yeah? Where do you think City fall in that table, boys? I've obviously got it in front of me. In terms of teams that have the most net.
Like fifth, it's probably like fifth or something, I'd say. Isn't it?
Robbie's saying fifth. Arj?
Net spend, I'd say eighth.
10th. In front of them, Chelsea with the highest net spend.
Yeah, but before 6 months ago, before that, we were way worse than that. Like, we've spent a whole bunch of money, but for contracts that's supposed to last the next 8 years. So if you average that out, it's not as dramatic as what it currently is. So we'll see what happens.
Look, but even there, the point is Chelsea, United, Arsenal, West Ham, Newcastle, Spurs, Wolves, Villa, Liverpool, and then City. Yeah. They have spent money. Manchester City have spent money. No one's denying that. But I don't think Manchester City spends stupid money.
No, they don't. Like, Grealish was their most last year. That was the first time they spent the 100 million kind of big player. Besides that, You know, who was besides that? Who was the next like highest player? I can't even remember. It was averaging 50 million for a long time there, 50 million, 50 million, 50 million, but they're never spending a lot on one player. So they're spending a lot, but not on the one player.
They're a smart club. Like you look at some of our teams, and we've probably spent some money on some duds. Like I look at us, we spent 30, 35 million on Fabio Vieira. But mate, I don't understand how we did that. To me, that's a stupid signing. We signed Runnison, for example, stupid signing. You guys, I would still argue that you well overpaid for Anthony and Sancho. Chelsea have made their own. I just think City do good business and they don't make mistakes. I can't name many mistakes from Manchester City. People would say like Calvin Phillips, maybe a bit of a mistake. They paid a lot for him and he did nothing. But had Rodri had a serious injury, we would have seen Calvin Phillips step in. So yeah. I think it is money, but I think they're just, as RJ said, they're so well run. And to me, they're on the verge of a dynasty.
And their multi-club model as well. Again, being strategic, they can afford to realise and leverage off these loan networks and, spread the love around. And that's what makes them just, again, it's a forward-looking view. They're not just buying for today. They're really spreading their tentacles across the European and global game. So, again, as an outsider, I have nothing but admiration in terms of the way they've systematically gone and built themselves to be this powerhouse club. So,
Spot on. Let's talk about my boys then, because you can't really talk Manchester City this season without talking Arsenal, because we spent, I think it was like 90% of the season at the top of the table. We absolutely have grown this season. We've shown growth. And we pushed Manchester City. It's not a title, but the fact is we were the closest to pushing them for this title. I'm really disappointed with our collapse in this last part of the season. You boys know my opinion on other Arsenal fans. I feel we've got a fan base that is absolutely mental. I like to call it the positivity Olympics. Everyone wants to be the most positive fan out there. I look at our season and I wouldn't say it has been a successful season. I wouldn't say it's been a successful season, because to me, success is winning something. I would say it's been a season of growth, and I think I mentioned this last week. It's been a season of growth. I'm okay with the direction of the season. We met the minimum expectation, but ultimately we had one hand on the title and we let it go. No one forced us. We could have afforded to lose to City and still keep it. I've seen some fans, there was a thread on Twitter where fans are asked to rate our season out of 10. I saw 9s, I saw 9.5s, I saw 8s, I saw 8.5s. To me, you're delusional, because we made no cup run. We got knocked out to Sporting. All that for the Premier League, that then ultimately we lost to West Ham. We haven't beat Southampton, the first team relegated. And then we blew those leads. So I can't give Arsenal anything higher than a 6 this season. A 6 for the personal growth, but they lose those 4 marks. Because I don't think it can be less than a 5. We were at the top of the table most of the season, so I'm not going less than 5, because to be there for so long says something about us. But the fact that if you watch tape from me this time last year, I'm blowing up about us losing the top 4, which was also in our hands. So that's still a big question mark to me and a big concern. I can't go higher than a 6, and that's me being generous. RJ, do you think I'm being fair? Let's try and put the banter aside for a moment and just think about this. I want your opinion as a football fan, not as a Chelsea fan, not with my bias. What do you reckon?
Yeah, look, it's very hard to be. Obviously, we inherently are biased.
Hate each other's teams.
I couldn't. You know what? Especially because of how bad my team's gone. Seeing you guys bottle it the way you did just made me feel so much better about life. But look, I actually think you're being a bit hard on them. Yeah, it sucks. You blew a big lead. You're the first team that's blown the lead in December, and the manner in which let's call it what it is. It's it's a pretty sad collapse from your club. Overall, though, like the definition, and again, success is relative. The definition of success is you've gone and accomplished an aim or objective. Your objective should be to improve year on year. Yeah, you didn't. The ultimate aim is to win things, but part of the aim is to be better. And when you're looking at it on that front, you were better. You were on top for so long, and yeah, you had a shocking collapse. But to say your overall season rating as a 6 would imply that you've actually regressed from the previous season when that's not true. You guys have been really strong this season, and it sucks because you lost. But again, you're comparing a whole season in the most difficult league against a team that's probably one of the best in our generation over at least this decade. To say 6, I would say objectively, that's actually a very harsh rating. I'd say a minimum a 7. But again, I don't know what it's like being an Arsenal fan at the moment. You must be really disappointed. But overall, massive growth, 90% of the way, choked at the end. But you guys did better than what you did last season. So surely that's got to count for something.
Fair enough. Robbie, same question.
Yeah, look, I'm on the same track as RJ. To be honest, I was going to give you a 7.5 because as a neutral, I enjoyed watching Arsenal this year. I thought, yeah, you guys from where you've been, not just last year, but the last 7 years out of the Champions League, considering you guys for the previous 20 before that were a consistent top 4 team and had cup runs. I think to get from there to just in the top 4 was already a good season, expectations or not. Your style of play for 3/4 of the season was entertaining. You guys had goals in you. You guys had, you're well organized at the back. You guys, it's taken 2-3 seasons, but your playing out from the back has improved a lot from day one when you got there. I thought even your transfer strategy was a lot like probably the best it's been in a long time too this year. So look, the cup runs was probably not the greatest. Getting knocked out of the Europa League, which I thought you guys could have got really deep in as well. FA Cup, I think, was knocked out earlier because I think you guys played City. So that was, that's always like when you play City, it's 90%. You can tell the result. For me, it's 7.5. I mean, like I said, it's pretty disappointing. As if I was an Arsenal fan, as I said 100 times, I really thought you guys were going to get the job done. Obviously not, but yeah, 7.5, man. Like, it wasn't just a 2-week title fight. You guys, like I said, majority of the season were winning it. And yeah, like you said, you lost it for yourself, which was unfortunate. But yeah, I think anything like a 6 for me, that's super harsh, man. 7.5 to 8.
It's crazy though, isn't it? Though you think, what was the point advantage that they had in December? Was it like 10
11
points or something?
11. They had a game in hand.
Yeah, but to think now that they could finish 10 points behind,
I know,
it's like a 20-point swing.
I know,
that's a massive change. I can understand why you think you've gone like this and had a cliff.
That's not crazy. Basically. Like the year before Liverpool won at that COVID season, remember I think they had 8 points. I think they had a Christmas time and everyone's like, they're definitely not going to do it. It was like 8 or 13 points. Liverpool, I remember Sadio Mane came out. He's like, we're going to win the title. And I remember I said, I'm like, you watch City hunt them down, and they got him. So, look, it's not the first time that City's done it, but it's just crazy how, like I said, 20-point swing is mental.
RJ, is that what? Did you want to ask me something?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, as an Arsenal fan, and I know you've spoken about there's a couple of games that you dropped, but what is it in your mind specifically was the root cause for why you couldn't get the job done? And I suppose you can turn it into a forward-looking question as to what do you need to do next season to not let it slip?
Put it down to a couple of things. One, Arteta's inexperience. The fact that we in a lot of those clutch games persisted with Rob Holding when Kivior has come in and shown that he offers more. I think that was suicidal from Arteta. I think he's made some really poor choices there. Squad depth, some money not spent wisely. I think Jorginho was a brilliant signing when you consider what we paid and what he brings. But then I look at 35 million on Fabio Vieira, and that burns me because he's contributed 0 to the season. Absolutely nothing. We could have used that and got a couple of older players who could have come in and done a job. and I put it down to a weak mentality, a mentality of, acceptance and let's pat ourselves on the back. To me, winners are hard on themselves. We've gone and got a puppy for the team called Win. That's Arteta's big idea. And I'm not Arteta out. He met my minimum expectation, but a puppy for them, like they're not babies, man. This isn't a preschool. Shouldn't be a puppy. You should be dragging these guys over the coals, kicking them up the backside, saying you've let us down with how you've ended this season. I don't think a puppy and saying in the media how proud you are of them. No, that's not right. That's not. Do you think Pep's going and getting a puppy for that Manchester City squad if they go from 11 points in front to 10 behind? There's no puppy. He'd probably take all their puppies and sell them as a punishment. Like, I just think there's some inexperience and almost something gimmicky about us that we need to sort it out. Like, we need these guys to become like winners, killers, not kids who need a rub on the head every time they do something good. Like that's the big thing for me. I want to ask you though, Robbie, because you've both told me that I'm being really harsh and you've both given much higher ratings. I want to assume that you make the top 4, Rob. Okay, let's assume.
Mm-hmm.
You've said that we had a 7.5 season. You've spoken about how good our season was. Would you swap your season for ours if you qualify for the Champions League?
No, and that's been honest. But we've won a trophy, and then, like I said, we've had a long trophy drought.
Success.
Fourth and
trophies, yes.
Yeah, 4th and 2nd is the same right now. Really, like you guys haven't got anything. Like, hey, we've had a cup run, but possibly we could have 2 pieces of silverware within the next week. If we win the FA Cup, that's an amazing season for me. If we get top 4, we've already got the Carabao Cup, and we can get FA Cup as well. That's from where we were last season to our worst points ever in the Premier League to here in one season in the transition. That's a really, really good season. But look, I understand what you're saying, but again, different. You got to. We're looking at it as a neutral, but we've got to look at a little bit at the expectation wise. You guys were 3 years into a thing. You guys have like embedded your team. You guys had a good transfer window, so you guys had a different kind of target compared to us. I said that we're going to come 6th or 7th this year. So just making top 4 already would have been a really good, like a bonus for me that we even got there. So, but as we've said a million times this season, the bar's going to change depending on the season. You guys went from let's hopefully get top 4 to being in the title race all season. Then you've buckled it. That's why it brings it up and down. I was expecting us to even not possibly not get European football at all. We can possibly end the season. Like I said, we've already won 1 cup. We could.
There's no FA Cup coming, mate. The light blue demons are taking.
I'm not saying nothing about that, but still to say from where we were, just to make another final, 2 finals, a semi-final in the European thing that we got knocked out of, obviously, and top 4, which is a point off out of the last season.
Yeah.
In transition, I think it's a really good season. So for me, like if I was rating it, I'd say 7.5 to 8 for me at the moment. Obviously, depending on the last thing, I'd be the same 7.5 to 8 for me at the moment.
All right, let's move on because Robbie's team still. It could be a very different rating depending on whether or not 100%. They make top 4. So let's hold on them. We'll do that next week. RJ, I don't think you're going to need as long because yours is not as complex, I don't think, in terms of where you are. How would you rate Chelsea's season numerically?
It's 1 to 10, 1 out of F. It's been a fail across the board. And there are some reasons, not excuses, reasons contributing to that fail of the season because that's what it is. It's as optimistic as one can be. You can't be too optimistic. Apart from we're staying up was the main sort of positive outlook for me. But yeah, like Eman said, Chelsea have been 10 out of 10, a 10 being horrific. Obviously, it's 10 there. But yeah, look, to be honest with you, combination of issues. In my world, we look at a thing called incident management. You look at Chelsea's incident. The main incident is start of last season. New ownership, sacking Tuchel early into the season, bringing in someone that hasn't really been tried and tested in this type of environment. So, yes, good manager. Brought him in probably at the wrong time. Then gone about buying a whole bunch of players based on a model where you haven't allowed your off-field experts or your technical directors, etc., to get a proper understanding. And then it just goes from worse to worse to worse. So all of those things put together contribute to what's been an absolute pathetic season. And I look at Frank and I look at, Potter, and I look at the players, and obviously we're a super bloated squad. You've got Pochettino that's supposedly going to come in now. And I've listened to a lot of people comment on his days at Southampton, at Tottenham, and at PSG. And there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but at the same time, the club, Todd Bowley, the rest of the board need to do the first thing and really reduce the bloatedness of the squad, because it's not reasonable for any manager, Pep, Arteta, Ten Hag, anybody, to work with a squad that's double the size. So get rid of the excess. And what I will say is, while a lot of the issues people have criticised are due to change in systems and tactical shortcomings, some of the efforts that we're seeing with some of these players, you can tell that they've checked out a long time ago. They're either too young and haven't understood what, like your point, Scott, about the mentality. The same thing here. You've got a lot of these young players who've got tickets on themselves. They've got a lot of hype, a lot of promise, that haven't been through the grind. I know what it's like to survive the Premier League rigors, especially in a team that has a culture, a very big culture that respects winning. And they haven't understood what that means. So a lot of these players, when Poch comes in, is going to have to make some really big decisions about, do they survive the Chelsea way, or do we loan them out or sell them and cut our losses? So fail season, time to press the reset. But the reality was, the moment in which we guaranteed our mathematical safety, which was always a 1% chance, I've seen nothing but a whole bunch of players that have totally checked in. Or checked out, I should say. So that's it, boys. It's been an absolutely terrible season, and that's all there is to it.
When Poch comes to shove, mate, we're going to have to find out, aren't we? But I think him, Pochettino, and this might be another Scott Borg lock moment. I think if you've got Poch in place, it's fully confirmed, isn't it, for your pre-season? Is it fully confirmed?
Yeah, by all the credible sources.
Yeah.
If he takes your team for the pre-season, you're definitely back in the top 6 next season. Definitely back in the top 6, pushing for top 4 straight away. I think you're going to flip from where you are to fighting for those top 6.
It just depends on who goes, because they've got to get rid of at least 10 players. You've got to remember that. So
Poch is used to working with shit. He did it at Spurs for a very long time. You've got some players of that mould. He will get the most out of them. You've got plenty of quality mixed amongst that. I think Pochettino gets much more out of this squad than Potter or Lampard ever did.
But you know what? With Poch,
you should be optimistic.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the thing about consistently what I've heard from everyone that's critiqued Poch is that what he's good at is working with a core group of players, but particularly the younger ones that haven't yet had a chance to really develop an ego, you know what I mean, and really have their own point of view. So I think he'll come in and put his arm around a group of them. But it'll be interesting to see what happens to the futures of your Conor Gallagher's, your Mason Mounts. Once we know the certainty of some of these other players, I'll start to feel a lot more comfortable where we're heading. But there's just so many question marks, like Carney Chukwuemeka, Badia Sheila, Levi Colwell's meant to come back from Brighton next season. What do we do with players like Mateo Kovacic, Kai Havertz? Ziyech is supposed to be going. Raheem Sterling, do we keep him now after a little bit of a mini rebound? There's just so many question marks against this Chelsea squad that it's difficult for any manager to come in and say for sure that they're going to start and hit the ground running. But I'm excited to see what he can do with us.
Spot on. Robbie, let's jump over to you. Someone who I know you've been praising the whole season, and we won't go too far on this, but I think he deserves a little bit of kudos. That's Roberto De Zerbi, Brighton's manager, good fella. What he's done, Robbie, surely you called this, I think, that he
straight off the bat. No one heard of him. Came in from Sassuolo. Obviously, again, he wasn't even a massive name in the Serie A, but he was one to watch, and a lot of people have said this guy has really got it. A lot of same thing. All the English media, as soon as he came in, he doesn't know our game, he doesn't know this, doesn't know that. Mate, he's just made history today for Brighton, getting them for the first time ever in European sport in his first season and in the transition season as well. The football they've played, some of the teams that they've taken on head-to-head and beaten this year is like they're an entertaining team to watch as a neutral, man. And like they're a team that, Conference League, even Europa. Like I love even today how he came out and he said, we're just because we're in Europe, he goes, we only need 1 or 2 points to get that Europa spot, not the conference, and we're going to go for it. I just love how they have so much.
I think they are qualified for Europa now, aren't they? Or just like 99% sure or something?
Currently, they're in the Europa spot, but he said today, he goes, we want Europa, we don't want conference, because they can still it'll be one or the other, but they're definitely going to be in Europe. I just like how they keep pushing their bars, and that's a team that next year I reckon they could go for a run in Europe as well, man. And again, they know what kind of club they are. They said, we're going to, 2-3 players, we're going to leave. We're going to get big money. And I love their transfers. They already got people coming in already, man. Like people lined up to come in. No mucking around, no long bullshits through the summer. Have another full preseason under him, and they can be a force again.
They're basically confirmed for Europa. They would need They would need to lose. And Villa would need to win by about.
Well, they beat Brighton. They play Brighton. So if Aston Villa can win 10-0 against Brighton, then that would guarantee them.
I think he said today they need 1 point to secure Europa League. I think
it's basically done. Now let's flip it over, boys. Let's flip to the other end of the table, because for all the action at the top, there's a hell of a lot of action at the bottom too. We know that Southampton are gone. Nottingham Forest, courtesy of Arsenal not turning up, are safe. And look, good on them. I like the way that they came into the league and they spent. Like they used the money they were given on the league. Not all the signings were good, but they at least came in and they really rolled the dice to give it a go. So I'm happy Forest is staying up. Sometimes you get clubs come up and they maybe give the manager a quarter of the money to spend, and I like the way they rolled the dice. So well done to Forest for staying up. It's either Everton, Leeds, or Leicester. Let me paint you a bit of a picture, boys. Can you still see the table on that screen?
Yep.
All right, good. I can't
see
it.
Out of 3.
I can't see it. So I'm going to give you some of the fixtures to get you started. Then you're going to tell me who's surviving out of those teams. Everton have 1 game remaining. They're playing Bournemouth. If Everton win that, they're safe. If Everton draw that, they're pretty much safe. Leeds would need a big win to jump them. The next team, Leeds, their remaining game is against Tottenham Hotspur, and they're playing at home. Okay. And then Leicester have to play Newcastle. I think that's in the morning, isn't it?
Yeah, tomorrow. Yep.
They're playing Newcastle away, and then they're playing West Ham at home.
Yeah, look, Southampton, I called that since day one. That was
they're gone.
I still can't believe it happened. Called that one, and another one just quickly with the Forest. I called them to stay up, and I'm happy that they're staying up also. But look, for me, Leeds are gone for me as well. I think Everton. I still think Everton's going to go. I think Leicester's going to somehow make a little. I could see Bournemouth beating Everton. Put it that way, I really could.
So you think, Robbie, Leicester stay?
So if Bournemouth beat Everton, that's their last game, isn't it? So if Bournemouth win, Everton stays on 33, and
Leeds will then need to win their game.
No. What about Leicester? So they've got 2 games left. One's tomorrow against Newcastle. And what's their last game?
West Ham.
See, West Ham. Leeds have to beat Spurs, and Leicester would have to get at least one win out of their last 2 games.
Yeah, which I reckon they could do on the last day. Are they at home on the last day, Borg? Sorry, I can't see the table.
I can tell you that. They are at home against West Ham.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be crazy if they went down. I really would be mental if they went down. But same with Everton, man. Like, they've never been relegated. So Leeds for me, Southampton's gone. Leeds for me, definitely. I can't see them escaping, but I just feel like Everton's going to drop me. And last year they just got out of it, and like we could see on the weekend, like they're celebrating like it's a Champions League final, man. When they're getting like a 97th minute like draw against Wolves on the weekend, like
I dare say it is a Champions League final.
I
for
know,
them,
but
like,
it's mental how like
Well, they haven't got Frank there to rescue them this time.
a club like Everton, I can't, like consistently 2 years in a row, are like going down to the last day to avoid relegation. It's mental.
I think Everton survive. I think they do the business against Bournemouth, who are safe. I think Bournemouth will have checked out, and I do see Everton beating them. I think it stays like this. Leicester and Leeds to go down, which would be huge. I mean, fire sale if Leicester go down. Maddison, Barnes, Tielemans, contract expiring. But yeah, I think Everton are safe. Just what about you, RJ?
Yeah, I think Everton get a draw, and I think that does enough to sink both those underneath them. To be honest, so it's scary.
Everton
it's scary
on 34 points. 34 points will get you over the line. That's crazy. It used to be the Magic 39 or whatever it was. Now it's getting lower and lower.
Antonio reckons Everton will survive, but he says they're on a slippery slope. And it's hard to argue against that, isn't it, boys? It's been a big old season, and I'm looking forward to next week's show, definitely. Before we do start to wrap it up, and if I've missed anything that you want to throw in, feel free to jump in, boys. But just a quick word on Vinicius Jr. Obviously, you would have seen the footage from the match this morning, subjected to some horrible racist abuse from the fans. He's blown up about it. La Liga president's kind of brushed it a bit to the side. If I'm Vinicius Jr., why not go? Why not force the point and just say, I know there's the argument that then you let the racists win. Why not go somewhere where you don't have to put up with that crap? Why come to the Premier League, the world's greatest league? Plenty of clubs there that would take him. Plenty of clubs. Do you think he's right to kind of stay and fight, or would you be wanting to pack your bags and say, see you later? RJ?
No, I just think that you're not going to avoid it. It's unfortunate. You can get it anywhere, any country. And I know some countries have a worse record than others, but it's a tough situation because it's not right what they get exposed to. So there needs to be better treatment, education, and everything from the clubs as well as the leagues themselves. But I don't know. I don't think you can just pack up and run away from your problems. I just don't think that's the solution. And again, I'm not subject to it. It's not right. It's horrible. But by him moving away, it doesn't help others in a similar position that are also exposed to it. So what does it really solve? So it sucks. It's terrible. And it's a shame because the guy is a phenomenal footballer. Hey, if there was any excuse for us to be able to throw a hat in a ring and bring him in, I'd be the first one to jump on it. But it's a shame that it's that kind of conversation that would be the catalyst for getting him to have to leave. So it's one of those situations, man, where it's, again, racism rears its ugly head into the game. And unfortunately, we just have to lick our wounds and try to work out a way that they can deal with it because it just continues to exist despite all the good efforts to try to eradicate it.
Robbie?
Yeah, look, much the same as RJ, to be honest. It's disgusting. There's nothing about it. But as RJ said, it's not just them. Look, La Liga's right up there with the worst. And look, Serie A's had their fair share of racism as well. So, and it's just mental because there's so many, people that get neutralized now, Africans that are African Europeans, or they neutralized to a European country, or they've got African heritage growing up in Europe. Like this, like look at the French team, like the Italians are coming through now. Like it's everywhere. So I always say, not just for football and sport, I don't get how in this day and age how racism is a thing. That's one thing I just don't get, like the color of your skin and why is it still around. And yeah, for me it's mental. But like you said, going from one league to another, I don't think it's going to help the problem. We see it everywhere, which is an unfortunate thing. And it's not just in sport. It's in schools. It's in everyday work in life. It's just, I don't think it's something racism that's ever going to go away. But, yeah, look, for me, I still think there should be some kind of stand, like, as Carlo Ancelotti came out today and said they should be stopping that game and saying, like, that's it. Sorry, like the whole crowd was calling him a monkey, man. Like, it's not on. The poor guy was in tears. They've got to do something, or there's got to be some kind of punishment to kind of say, hey, this is where we draw the line, and see if they can get it under control at some kind of point. Because it can happen anywhere, man. It happens in the nurseries or under 10s on the weekend.
I think that's the way you do it, Rob. I think that's right. Like, if you can't prevent it, you can put mechanisms in place to respond to it and hit them where it hurts, in the money, the pockets.
Like,
start deducting points, start cancelling games, whatever. Do it.
Behind closed doors. If they really wanted to punish us, Valencia today, we'll just take today's thing. Okay, you guys, 5 games, no crowd, no home crowd. It's behind closed doors. That would hurt the club's pocket. That would hurt the supporters' pocket. I mean, well, they'll just hurt the supporters in general. But then it's a statement from the league saying we're not going to put up with your shit anymore.
Well said, boys. Some good ideas there too, and practical. Was there anything else I missed that you wanted to touch on, boys, before we wrap this one up?
Quick shout for me. Look, I know he's a Tottenham player, but what a goal from Hurricane on the weekend. I don't know if you guys seen that.
Sorry, Rob, you're breaking up, mate. I thought I heard you saying praise for a Tottenham player or something. Can't be right.
We don't do that here, Rob.
We'll call him a soon-to-be United player, maybe. No, I hope so. But,
one of your teams.
Look, I reckon, one of our teams in general. It won't be Arsenal, I don't think, but it'll be one of ours. But
top goal,
honestly,
100%.
What a goal, man! He's a killer. He's so good, man. For such a shit team, they're just really gone. Like, for a while there, they were losing games, and I don't know how they're hanging around 4th, 5th. But they've just nosedived to like 8th, 9th now. It's mental how everyone's caught up so quick. It actually makes it look like the season they've had now, because when they were losing, and still hanging around that European spots, it just looked mental. How's that even happened? But great goal from Hurricane.
He's gone under the radar, hasn't he, Scott? Because someone was saying today he scored 28 goals. That normally wins you a golden boot in most seasons, but Haaland's gone, debut, young, flashy player, won the Premier League, 36 goals, blah, blah, blah. And people just forgetting Harry Kane exists because he's such a phenomenal player. But the thing I wanted to bring up was something a bit closer to home. So congratulations to both Melbourne City and Central Coast for headlining this year's A-League Grand Final. So they're just keeping the trophy warm until MacArthur Bulls take it from them next season. So
that's it, mate. That's right. Gentlemen, look, it's been a good show. Can't believe that next week is going to be probably the last one for the season. We'll then look ahead to the FA Cup, Champions League, Europa, Conference League, all of those. We'll come back. We'll give Manchester United season a rating. Obviously, that's going to be one to watch. That's going to be exciting. But we've talked relegation, top 4, bottle jobs, title winners, all those things and more. So if you're only jumping in now, make sure you go back, chuck a like on the video, watch it from the beginning, and of course, leave a comment. Always helps the show. Until then, everyone, take care, enjoy your football, look after each other. Peace out.
Ciao.